Welcome everybody, this is the Golden Dice Podcast. We are here at the Galactic Championships for Star Wars Unlimited, the first ever, and I am here with game designer John Leo. John, how are you?
I am amazing. This event has been just so incredible. Just came from doing some signings, designer duels, and facing off with fans, shaking hands, trading cards. It's just been an unbelievable weekend, man.
Yeah, we've been seeing you like out and about, talking with people. It's really been great to see how accessible the designers have been this weekend to everybody at the convention, at the event. You know, the designer duels, how have they been going?
Oh, it's been awesome. First off, you know, it's for us, it's not a perk for the fan to get to hang with us. It's vice versa, right?
Okay, yeah.
The inverse is we're excited about getting FaceTime with the people who love this game, you know, as much as we do, right? The people who are passionate about this game. And that passion has come through so much, like in the designer duels, right? I've played, I think, maybe 20 designer duels over the course of the
You've gotten a lot of games in this weekking. That's pretty good.
I've been getting in reps.
Yeah.
Absolute reps. One like fun factoid is that the devs, or at least the design team, some of us keep score about.
I was about to say, what's the win-loss record?
Up the wins, who's been, and then you know we all tease each other at the end of the show about who took the most losses. You know, I had a bad Saturday, but I've been cleaning up today.
Okay, it's bouncing back. It's always good to see.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of some of the events that have been going on at the Galactic Championships, we are in, right now as we're recording this, day 3 of the championships themselves. So they're kind of winding down. We're going to see who's going to be crowned the Galactic Champion probably in the next few hours from recording of this. So that's pretty exciting.
So exciting.
I wanted to go over a little bit of, kind of the day 3 meta breakdown, talk about some of the decks that have been there and get your kind of thoughts and, the thoughts of the design team, as far as, you look into the meta as we see it.
Of course, yeah.
So top converting deck for day 3 is going to be Han Solo, blue on the force base, kind of a known quantity. Everybody kind of expected that going in, leverages force throw fairly heavily. A little bit of a surprise. You got Sabine Wren as the number 2. Sabine's demise seems to be greatly exaggerated. It wasn't getting a lot of press going into the event, maybe thinking that Han was going to keep her down, but she's risen to be the second most converting deck with, 8 players compared to Han's 12. So that's,
really, really cool. Not super surprising, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, we can chop it up and get into that too, I think.
And then we've got maybe the surprising one of the weekend. We've got the new Kylo Ren on Tarkin Town.
That's definitely been the breakout story, I think, on the competitive side,
yes.
right? A lot of people have been chattering about the strength of the Kylo Ren leader Shell, but playing the command base, right? Like with Energy Conversion Lab or with Data Vault to leverage the Darth Vader unit, right?
Yes.
But seeing the Tarkin Town base sort of brought to the forefront, that's been really, really cool technology. It's something that has been on our radar a little bit over the past few weeks that we've been sort of internally chattering about among the design team. For example, Danny Schaefer, our lead designer, brought that deck with him, and we were playing earlier. And so we have believed in the power of this leader card, and it's been really exciting to see it pop off, and especially exciting to see it pop off in a direction that most people did not expect.
Yeah, because you saw in the day prior, all of the Kylo decks that converted to day 2 from day 1 were all either on Data Vault or on ECL, and then you saw a lot of additions in day 2, people that had pre-qualified come in with the Kylo Tarkin Town, and really kind of third most converting deck. So that's pretty impressive.
It's really curious, and that's something that I would be really excited to sort of survey competitive players about, is the difference between the day 1 and the day 2 meta, because the open is such an open field, obviously, but in a way it's showcased a lot of known quantities, right? Whereas the day 2 metagame has shown a lot of people who have been sort of preparing their secret technologies.
Yes,
right?
they had the buy into day 2, so they could hold back on the tech.
Exactly. And so that's been really cool, and something that I'm curious to see more of from the other content creators and the competitive players out there.
Yeah, and we're going to see that even moving forward to next year's Galactic Championships, because we're going to have the last chance qualifier on the Friday, and then the main event starting on the Saturday. So similar format to what we saw here, just a little bit changed with the qualifier points and things of that nature. So going into the event, did you have a rooting interest in any specific leader, archetype, any deck overall?
One thing I really wanted to see was I wanted to see some Legends of the Force leaders succeed.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise, I was a designer on the set.
Okay.
And the cards mean a lot to me personally because I worked really hard on them. So it also represented sort of Legends of the Force represented a shift in the design philosophy of the game in some sense.
Yeah.
We talked about this on some of our panels yesterday, right? About how, and Tyler Parrott has written about this somewhat, about how we wanted to see a shift in the texture of the game from more extreme control and aggression strategies into more of sort of sawing off the ends of that spectrum and meeting a little bit more in the middle. And Legends of the Force, my work with Joe O'Neill, Aaron Haltom, and Danny, has been sort of directed at that end. And so to see it realized has been really, really exciting. And we hoped that it would. We hoped we would see Legends of the Force cards making an impact. So seeing Kylo Ren leader, Mother Talzin leader, and so on has been, I think, really exciting for us internally.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Legends of the Force was a more heavy mid-range set compared to some of the others. So you see the Talzins that you mentioned. Even the Han deck can call more of a mid-range deck than a heavy control deck, and that he's heavily leveraging a lot of the Force units that came in the set themselves.
Yeah, it's that deck specifically is really it's essentially a mid-range deck in the classical sense of this deck can hit the acceleration and just play ahead of curve and beat you on tempo. But that deck also has sort of a grind mentality in the late game and can win in very, very long board states with stuff like Crate Dragon.
Yeah, sticking the crate is a big thing into the control matchups.
Exactly. And so that kind of deck is really exciting, and of course you're going to see it convert really well because it's good into a lot of matchups.
Yeah. So if you could have competed, what would you have brought?
I would be playing the deck that I'm most familiar with.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in a competitive player, and I'm not a high-level competitive player, although I am competitive, is that I believe in playing the deck that you know inside out.
Yeah.
Because knowing your matchups all the way in, all the way out, knowing your sideboard strategies, knowing your outs. So I'm a firm believer in dancing with the one who brung you, as they say. And for me, that's Kylo Ren leader with Energy Conversion Lab base, because that was my favorite deck all through playtesting, through the development of Legends of the Force. There is just, to me, no better feeling than 5 resource turn, 6 resource, 7 and 8 resource turn, getting a 2-for-1.
Just every single time.
Turn, and then if you have to play your Avengers, you will, and that's great.
It's Avengers Avenger, and it's
a useful unit card.
It's very nice. It is very funny that you say that because Kylo ECL has been my favorite deck of this set as well. It's been what I've been playing the entire weekend. So
it's for classy people.
It's for classy people. We pulled the Palpatines together. This is made to be.
That's true. That's true. We opened the first 2 Emperor Palpatine showcases in the world, right?
Yeah, so we're stuck playing Command for the
Absolutely.
entirety of
I
this
think we're
game.
just pretty much locked in forever.
Yeah. So with an event of this size and scope, do you and the other designers have meta expectations going in?
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that we really expected and would be seeing a couple of things. We expected a significant change in the makeup of bases. Previously we saw in sort of the jump to light speed metagame, we saw a massive rise in the in Data Vault, right?
Yeah.
Its representation.
Data Vault was popular with everything.
Very, very popular. And Ryan Miles, our developer, has talked at length about this. But one thing that we expected on the design team is that number would get splintered pretty hard with the release of Legends of the Force for a few different reasons. One reason, the aforementioned Darth Vader unit really pulls command villainy units or decks into playing Energy Conversion Lab to sort of leverage the strength, the mid-range sort of explosive potential of that card. We still have seen some of those decks using the Data Vault base.
Yeah.
And then using the timely intervention event, which
delays you from 6 to 7 or 8.
Yes, exactly. I like to have my cake and eat it too, and so I just
Run
do
both.
both.
Yeah.
But that said, we expected some of those Data Vault based players would splinter off, and we have seen that that's been the case.
Yeah.
We've also seen, of course, the rise of the Force token bases, right? The common bases from Legends of the Force. Those are being really well represented, especially on the heroic side of the spectrum with Han Solo leader. But we're seeing a few different sort of versions of that shell, right? We have hoped to see, a few other bases. We've seen Tarkin Town sort of return as a prominent base.
Both in Quinlan, Cad, and then also in Kylo.
Yeah, and for a few different reasons. Of course, it's really good into the Han Solo.
He's doing the damage
leader.
for you to start everything off.
Exactly. So, we've always believed that Quinlan Boss Leader is sort of the natural antithesis to the Han Solo leader in some ways, just because of the natural sort of ways that they counter each other. It's sort of the anti-venom in the meta game. To keep that deck from some amount of conversion, because it's not a nightmare matchup, but it's a good matchup for that deck. And so we've seen some more Tarkin Towns rise to the forefront of the metagame for that exact reason, right?
Is there anything that's been surprising to you as you've seen, the day 2 qualifiers? There's a pre-Vizsla on that list.
Oh yeah, that deck is cool.
That's the most surprising for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's not a leader that you see often in the top 8s of any tournament, much less the biggest tournament in the history of the game, right? And so I'm on a group chat with all the design team, and last night I think we were heading out to dinner, and someone was like, Pre-Vizsla leader top 8. And we're like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to see, the people that come up with these very inventive decks and archetypes, and really, as you say, dance with the person that you brought and ride it to the forefront where they know their matchups, they know what they're looking to resource, they know what the outs that they're looking for. Whereas, if you just pick up a deck that might be more well known, you might not know it.
Absolutely. Well. I mean, when you sit across the table from an off-meta deck, it's sort of an unknown territory that you have to explore. And often, especially those game 1s, are scary.
Yeah.
And so I think that player, I don't know who it is, but made some very, very exciting choices in their deck building, and obviously is a skilled player. So I mean, there's no harm in rooting for someone to bring a deck like that and go this far. That's so cool. It's also been very cool to see the Tarkin Town base with Kylo Ren leader, because that was so off the map until a couple of days ago. I was talking with a friend of mine who's a player, and he was like, I saw that all of the Sith Holocron upgrades were getting bought up yesterday. So,
you kind of can see that in the market itself. All of a sudden, you're like, why is there a shortage of this particular card?
Exactly, like the winds are communicating something. Something is changing.
There's a whisper.
Exactly.
Going through the force.
Something is happening that we are about to see. What it looks like, and we are seeing it. It's been so cool to see these sort of day 2, day 3 converters.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting to see how the meta evolves and everything like that, and it's great to see, like you said, sometimes the unknown. If your opponent has to ask you, what does that card do? That's a big weapon that you can bring into a tournament, and it leaves them guessing. It leaves them guessing when they're going into their sideboard. It leaves them guessing when they're resourcing. It leaves them guessing when they're looking for their outs, because they don't necessarily have the play patterns established that they might have for a more meta represented deck.
The off-meta player loves that moment where you play a card and your opponent goes, can I see that?
Yeah, can you read that?
And you go, haha, you're toast, buddy.
You just don't know what's about to hit you.
Yeah.
So we're through year 0 of OP. This is the first year. Year 0, we're going to go into year 1 moving forward. What has been your favorite meta or favorite decks that have come out throughout the year, 5 sets in?
It's been such a cool metagame, especially over the past, I don't know, a few months, since the latest round of suspensions, right? Okay. We saw sort of the surgical removal of a couple of cards that were causing trouble, and from there the meta cracked wide open. We saw this sort of what I might refer to as like the data vault meta.
Yeah.
Where that base allowed a ton of different archetypes to flourish.
You even saw Sabine on it.
Absolutely, it was so cool to see all these different leaders that had been underrepresented, they had been under converting, and now they're rising up. And it felt on the design team when we were like, we're pretty sure, we're very confident actually that this is the right decision, and we think that the meta we create with this change is gonna be awesome. And we were, I think the community agreed that it was really cool.
Yeah, really kind of like broke things out of the not stagnation, but just there was a hard ceiling on things because of the way Django and the Triple Dark Raid
absolutely, and same for the DJ unit, right? And so I think that was a really cool meta, and seeing like for that sort of phase of competitive play, I was on the Ray Leader with Data Vault base, and just like grindy, heroic control,
33
mid-range,
health and restore just for days.
I'm just gonna draw 1,000,000 cards. I'm gonna play Bright Hope unit and bounce my stuff, and I just, playing for value is so fun. So that was a favorite deck of mine and a favorite sort of metagame moment of mine. All these cool decks rose up. We love Legends of the Force too, and the metagame that we see right now is obviously still in its infancy. Right?
This is the first kind of litmus test. This is the first setting of the metagame, and then you're going to see it expand out as we have PQ store showdowns moving forward.
Absolutely, and when a new set comes out, you have little night terrors of we're gonna, the meta could be ruined. There could be something we missed. And what we're seeing with these results is the metagame is healthy, right? It's looking really, really good. There's these rogue decks that have sort of rode in like thunder and taken over, and you just know that the people at home are already brewing the counter tech, for these decks and figuring how do I beat this deck, and that's how you know the metagame is healthy, that we have a healthy ecology of decks that attack each other and force change and force development and diversity in choices. And I'm just thrilled to bits.
Now, what's the worst nightmare as a designer? Is it you miss something and now the metagame's broken, or is it that the set doesn't affect the metagame that much?
That's a very reasonable question too. I mean, I think we knew that this set was going to be. To be colloquial, that this set was a banger, right? We're so proud of the work that we did on this set, and it obviously has blown the metagame open in some interesting ways. Of course, it's scary to make cards that are strong and powerful, right? We've created new archetypes that are strong. Mother Talzin Leader. The Kylo Ren Leader, Kiadi Mundi unit, all these powerful pieces that are sort of going to become the cornerstones of archetypes, and we'll see how those archetypes develop over this and the newly revealed Secrets of Power, right? So I think it's you don't want to make stuff that's boring. I think one of I used to teach writing. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that.
I used to teach at the university level and English, secondary school, high school, and I often told my students when they were writing that the greatest sin you can commit is to be boring.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with that philosophy in terms of game design too. You need to produce exciting cards that are gonna make people's brains tickle a little bit. And of course, not every card is for every person. Some cards are for the competitive, spiky players. Some cards are designed to make little kids happy because they like, an Ewok or a Mythosaur, a giant cool Mandalorian dinosaur thing. And I think as long as we are intentional about the kinds of cards that we make and who we make them for, as long as we are intentional about being interesting with our work, being passionate about our work, I'm excited to err on the side of being daring and being brave.
So with Legends of the Force, you've talked a little bit about how Kylo, is likely your favorite leader in the set.
Yeah, I would say so.
And then, obviously the new Vader, maybe one of your favorite cards. Beyond those two, what has been your favorite two cards to have worked on in this recent set?
There's a card that is, I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were in a meeting when Legends of the Force was just a baby. We were working on the set skeleton, which, in case you don't know, is a big spreadsheet where all the cards live before they get turned into cards. And it just lives on a shared spreadsheet, and we put stuff in. And at that stage, it's very hypothetical. It's very gray. And so we were in a meeting. It was like Danny Schaefer, Aaron Haltham, Joe O'Neill, and me. And Danny said, I know that we were talking about having a creature sub-theme in the set. Can we make sure we get some Purgles in there? My girlfriend loves whales, and they just make her happy. And Joe was like, yeah, and my wife loves porgs. She thinks they're really cute. We should get a porg in there. And I was like, yeah, my wife loves efficient removal. Maybe like a 4-cost, defeated unit, that'd be nice.
A little versatile one.
Yeah. And of course it got a good laugh because obviously it was just completely self-serving.
Yeah.
But of course, that card did become Shatterpoint. The event card, that defeats a unit, you use the Force token. And it's sort of a staple removal card for the Force token archetype. We're seeing it a lot right now in Mother Talzin leader decks. But of course, we expect to see it in other shells too as the game develops. So that's a card that's really special to me for that moment of the ha-ha, but also like, it's a kind of card that I enjoy and I think is healthy for the game as kind of a safety valve in a way.
Yeah, you always need this kind of staples printed in each set, and it's going to be even more important as we're coming up on rotation, where a lot of the spot removal that we're used to is going to be no longer there. So you might have to lean on Shatterpoint more, even if you're not necessarily a Force deck. It might just become something that you need to have in general.
One thing that's really fun about designing for this game, or a TCG with rotation, and this is something I'll talk about as we get talking about A Lawless Time, which has been newly revealed today. But about designing with rotation in mind, because you don't want those staples to be too stapley. You don't want them to be everywhere. So takedown is going to be gone, force throw is going to be gone, bamboozle, confiscate, all these events, for example. And what are the new cards? What are the new implementations of those core effects that are core to the gameplay of Star Wars Unlimited? How do we realize those in a way that's going to feel fresh and still serve this sort of core gameplay purpose?
Yeah, and I think Shatterpoint's probably one of the better examples of that, because it does have that basic removal aspect to it, but then to really leverage it, you need to use the Force mechanic.
Yeah, it has a deck building hoop. You have to be playing either a common base from Legends of the Force or a rare base with an even higher deck building cost, right? So
or Avar, and she can just get shit Force herself.
And that's a really cool deck that we have played a lot.
What was the most difficult card in the recent set to dial in?
The answer that Joe O'Neill would give, because someone asked him this question a couple days ago, is probably the same answer I would give, and that'd be Darth Revan, the leader. And I think partially because that's a card that is going to carry a lot of expectation from players, especially from certain...
Being who he is.
Yeah, from a certain subset of players who have an attachment, to the property and things like that. And so it's really difficult to, it's sort of an exciting challenge to create a card that is going to have to try to answer those expectations. But I think the trap some people fall into is trying to please everybody. Not every card is going to please everybody. Not every card is even going to please every fan of that character, right? Because there's going to be different interpretations, different things that people find remarkable about certain characters. And so I think just considering the expectation people have with the Darth Revan leader that we made, I think it's really difficult to get it right, because we're also exploring new design space of leaders with only one aspect, and how do we do that in a way that's going to feel interesting and come with a cool deck building challenge. So yeah, absolutely a challenging card, and I think it's a good card. I think that it's a nice leader and exciting to build around. But obviously, there was some pushback from fans on that, and sort of a dialectic of expectations and reality. Yeah,
and it's a very difficult character in that it's probably the most dynamic character in Star Wars, just based on the ebb and flow of where he goes.
Sure, right, exactly.
So it's really kind of difficult to dial in, like you said, please everybody in that sense, because there's going to be a lot of people that played one storyline and Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so rotation, like we said, 2 sets away. How do you think that's going to be received by the community?
There's always, among players, always is a big word, but there's often the feeling among players that rotation is about the creators of the game are taking something away from me. I have all these cards from sets 1, 2, and 3, and I'm not going to be able to play with them anymore. What's going to happen to my Luke Skywalker units? What's going to happen to my favorite leader? And I think that feeling is rooted in something that's really valid, right? Because you do have your favorite cards, you have an attachment to them. You have an attachment to the experiences of playing them, the realities of playing them, and of the memories that you made while playing Star Wars Unlimited with these cards, right? So I think that's totally valid. Excuse me. It's valid to fear the change the rotation will bring. That said, rotation also introduces just an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
For new players, the benefit is obvious, right? New players have a jumping in point where they're
Smaller card pool.
much smaller card pool, and it's for franchise card players, people like you and me. The benefits are like whatever, smaller card pool, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But think about the 9-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
Think about the single mom who wants to buy a pack for her kid and doesn't know which set to buy.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm super dry.
Understandably, you've been talking to everybody all day, all weekend.
It's the desert heat, brother. But, so, rotation introduces all these exciting opportunities for players, jumping in points for new players. It also sort of gives players a nudge to try something new. And that means if, oh man, I can't play my Wat Tambor leader in Premiere anymore. He was my favorite. I love that leader card. Now's a chance to try something new. Now's a chance to find a new favorite archetype, or a chance to implement that same strategy but in a new way, from a new perspective. What does a heroic kind of version look like? Do we have a way we can do that? And so I think that sort of nudge allows for more dynamism to enter the game, fresh perspectives to enter the game, especially for enfranchised players, right? Ultimately, it's going to be great for the health of the game. People will get used to it. It's scary. It's kind of
the first time is especially going to be a little bit of a
and you know it's kind of like getting into a lake, right? Where it's really cold. I don't want to do it. And then you take a couple of steps in, and 5 minutes later, you're like, this is the best day of my life.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be great. It's just going to be great.
Yeah, I know I'm excited just, from the standpoint of seeing what the new block brings as far as reimagining a lot of those, staple aspects that, need to exist in some form or another, whether, it's aggro leaders and aggro cards, control cards, removal, just things that have to serve those purposes, but like you mentioned, need to be reimagined in another way,
Absolutely.
We've, seen Power of the Dark Side played hundreds of times, and we're going to see, what's the new version that serves that same purpose in those villain decks to control that early board. See if that's even there. Maybe it's there in a hero version this time around.
And to that point, I think you brought up something that's really interesting. Is just as I said, people kind of fear their favorite things being rolled off. The things that players dislike about the early sets will also roll off.
Yeah.
Right. If there's a card that just really makes you mad and it's in Shadows of the Galaxy, odds are that it will not be reprinted right away, if at all, and that you're going to be liberated from having to experience the other side of that card being played against you. And I think that's something that people forget about a lot because we only tend to focus on our side.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Yeah, that's a kind of an interesting foible on that side. And I know there's some cards that I'm like, if I could, if I don't see those played again for a few months, I'd be very happy.
Absolutely. And just as an example, like we've heard so much conversation about the Force Throw event lately, right? Like I might as well bring it up before you do.
It's
this room's haunted. It's fine. And so there's sort of some chatter about okay, what are we going to do about this? In the very worst case scenario,
it's gone in 2 sets.
You hang out for a little while and you enjoy it, and then you tell stories about. You remember when that card was everywhere, and then you get to imagine what is a Force token deck or a unit that's packed full of Force traded units. What does that look like when that card has rotated out, and how different is it going to feel, and how exciting is that sort of wilderness of the new game going to be?
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of those rotate out. We're going to see Force Lightning go. We're going to see Force Choke go. It's very interesting to kind of see like what's the archetype going to be without some of those staple cards. What's going to be brought in to kind of replace those things.
It's still cool. I'll tell you that.
So we've seen we've seen partial reveals from Set 6 today. Secrets of Power, that's the new one coming out.
Absolutely.
Of the 2 mechanics that they previewed, which are Plot and Disclose, which is your favorite? Which one do you prefer?
We've also seen a new unit token, right?
A new unit token with the Spy.
Yeah, the Spy unit token, which is really cool. I really like Plot as a keyword in the game. One of the fan favorite mechanics in Star Wars Unlimited is Smuggle, right? Because it gives you an additional sort of modality to all the cards that you draw. Plot is not an attempt to recapture the magic of Smuggle, because there's no mechanic that's going to give you the exact same feeling. But Plot does access some of the same sort of excitement of, I am pulling one over on you because of the resourcing choices that I've made. It's smoothing the cognitive load of the resource moment.
It's protected in a lot of ways because your hand can be interacted with a little bit more than your resource row.
Absolutely, it's protected from disruption. And one thing that's really cool about plot is that it makes your leader deploy epic action. It makes it feel really cool. There are so many exciting plot cards in Secrets of Power that make, and you sort of get to go into this mode of like, okay, this is the leader that I want to play. What are all the different plot cards? What are the ones that are gonna interact favorably with my strategy? Or how can I change my strategy to interface with the plot mechanic in a way and make that leader deploy even better? It rewards the leaders who deploy later by giving you an extra sort of oomph on that moment, because you've built up more resources and you have access to more stuff in your row. But it also rewards early deploy leaders because you get the benefit of that extra sort of card advantage a little bit earlier. So I think it's a really cool mechanic. It's very dynamic, and it's very dramatic. Which is something that you don't get to see too often in Star Wars Unlimited, but it's a moment where you go, oh my goodness, because the leader deploy is cool, and it's always one of the most important moments of any game that you play. And this just makes it all the more important. So it sort of centers the game even a little bit more around your leader and around that leader moment, and I think that's really special.
Yeah, it's, for playing so much Kylo, that kind of has a similar feel to it, and you deploy your leader, you're bringing a lot of upgrades from your discard pile, so you're really kind of compounding so many actions, and plot does that, but from the resource row, and it's really kind of interesting to see. And yeah, Chancellor Palpatine is looking like a very interesting hero.
Oh, it's a really cool leader. The card draw on that leader is really nice. And it really lets you sort of sift through your deck for the plots that you want, and then make that deploy turn really impactful.
Yeah. Moving to the two spotlight leaders, we've seen Chancellor Palpatine and Senator Amidala. Which is more to your preferred play style?
I really like the Padme Amidala leader.
Okay.
She's centered around revealing and discard effects from your hand. So she interfaces nicely with the disclose mechanic, obviously. But she also works really well with just any discard strategies. And I really love the idea of self-discard to fuel effects. For example, the Kylo Ren leader archetypes that we've seen so far, both have sort of centered on that. And she's sort of a heroic implementation of a slightly similar kind of design space. I really like that card, and I played her a lot in playtesting.
That's really great to hear. I mean, yeah, she looks really cool, and I like the fact that she's not just tied to disclosing. I mean, obviously that's a mechanic that you can utilize with her and it's going to work with her, but the fact that she's not tied to that and she can use the generic type of events and abilities, I think that was a really interesting thing to read as I was like looking over the card this morning and seeing that and realizing like, oh, that clearly must have been baked in, and maybe she started an earlier edition with just working off the new mechanic.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah. That was a really smart decision. That would have been made by either Tyler Pear or Ryan Serrano, who were the design leads on Secrets of Power. They were so creative in the way they approached the set and the leader designs and all the cards. It's a really cool set. I'm so excited for people to have it in hand.
Yeah. Well, we've got one more question for you. You may not have an answer for this one, but do you have a card number for the next set that people should be on the lookout for?
I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah.
No.
Right,
I don't
understandable. We just pulled that one you had to spur of the moment.
I know.
I apologize.
No, next time.
All right, we'll get you next time then.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on. Really looking forward to everything that we're going to see from the next set and future sets that are going to come out. The 3 that were revealed today. It's really been great. It's been great to hang out with you this weekend, as always. And it's really just, as I said earlier, great to see how accessible the designers have been to the community.
Thanks so much. It's been amazing.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks. Well, thank you everybody. This is Golden Dice Podcast with John Leo signing off.